I personally think Teofimo Lopez has a decent chance of beating Boots, contrary to most people. Even Timothy Bradley talked about it, and he said it was an interesting fight, very entertaining, two of the most athletic fighters in the sport right now, which I agree with. I mean, there's not really too many more athletic fighters than guys like Teofimo Lopez. You see him doing the backflips. He's always in tremendous shape, never out of shape. And obviously Boots Ennis, who, he flashes and styles on his opponents and whatnot. So he's, been showing that he's a showman as well. Both guys like to entertain the fans and put a little, finesse into their fighting styles and make it exciting for the fight fans and whatnot. So I feel like it's going to be a very interesting fight. Whether or not it gets finalized, we'll see about that, but I feel like it's a tremendous fight. Eddie Hearn was talking to me about it, and he was saying how like it's a huge fight for the fans. It's a huge fight in the sport of boxing, and he likes Teofimo Lopez, thinks he's exciting, and Teo's willing to fight at 147, so why not make the fight happen? It's already in negotiations allegedly, according to Eddie Hearn. But I think Teofimo Lopez at this point in his career, going up to 147, maybe he'll be a faster fighter than Boots Ennis. It's tough because Boots has been at 47 for so long, and then for Teo to be fighting at 147 for his first debut fight at the weight class against a guy like Boots seems unfair, right? It seems unfair, but let's also take into account all possibilities. There's a good chance that Boots stays at 147 too long, and against Teofimo Lopez, if Boots is drained and you have a fully hydrated Teofimo Lopez who's feeling good, healthy, with the extra 7 pounds, fighting at 140 for a while, I feel like Boots could be in trouble. Let's be real. He's never fought somebody like Teofimo Lopez. Boots has had some great performances, but I think Teofimo Lopez would definitely be the most difficult fight for him, right? But, it's hard to favor Teofimo against Boots. It just seems like Boots would be a significantly bigger fighter in there, but let's say he doesn't make the weight properly and Teo's coming up in weight, he feels really good and healthy, like I said before. I feel like it could be trouble in paradise for Boots. Realistically, Boots should be fine, even if he's feeling a little bit dehydrated. I'd probably still give the edge to Boots, but I honestly wouldn't give Teofimo Lopez close to 0% at all. I think Teo's really talented. I think it's going to be hard because Teo's obviously going from a guy like Arnold Barboza, then you go to a guy like Boots at 147. It's not going to be easy whatsoever, but Teo's also a very fast fighter. He's a very reactive fighter, and I think with Boots, he's a relatively come-forward fighter. He can kind of give it to you any way you want it, pause, but I feel like Boots is really dynamic, but, it's all about Teo, Teo up here and where he's at, because every time we doubt Teofimo Lopez, he shows up and surprises everybody, right? Like, you look at the Josh Taylor fight, everybody was like, nah, he's mentally gone, and he cooks Josh Taylor. You look at the Lomachenko fight, everybody's like, oh, Loma's too good for this kid. Goes in there, beats Loma easily, and ultimately, every time Teofimo Lopez is counted out, what happens? He surprises everybody, right? Everybody was like, oh, Arnold Barboza has the momentum. Teo beats him easy. So let's see what happens with Boots Ennis. And Teo seems to really want the fight, which is really intriguing. And Teo has also stated on numerous occasions that he sees many weaknesses and holes in Drawn Boots Ennis's game that he could exploit. So I'm excited and really curious to see it because, like I said, he called him out. So, to say, I'm Dora looking for Boots and all that, I feel like Teofimo Lopez maybe knows something that we don't, and he might have something in store for us if he does get to fight Boots Ennis. And if he's able to pull that one off, we're talking legend status at this point, because Boots is a generational talent already, in my opinion, at 147. Granted, there aren't a lot of big names at 147 that could really give Boots that stamp of like, all right, this dude is gonna go to the Hall of Fame, but you can kind of see it in his performances already that he is the real deal. And obviously we wanted to see that Terrence Crawford fight. Terrence is obviously going for that big money fight against Canelo Alvarez. I think he's gonna beat Canelo, and after Terrence beats Canelo, he's gonna end up retiring. So we're not gonna ever see Boots versus Crawford, unfortunately, because I feel like that would have been the fight that really tested Boots to see what he's really about. But I think we'll just have to settle for maybe potentially Teofimo Lopez and Boots, but I still think it's a tremendous fight. Maybe we see Teo eventually fight Devin at 147. There are a lot of fights that could be made at 147, but for Boots and Teo, that's a really good one. If Boots ends up beating Teo, great win, but honestly, he wouldn't give get as much respect as Teo would for beating Boots. But, you know, maybe after that, you know, all of Teo's fans become Boots fans. Boots gets a huge crowd. He moves up to 154, fights Virgil, and, you know, you got a big fight there as well. So we'll see what happens. I think Teo has a decent chance of beating Boots, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Navs Boxing video. Peace.